If you like this list video or any of the battle reports, feel free to subscribe. Leave a comment on which list you would rather see. There's a Need for Speed list, so it has some Blade Champions with some Wardens and lots of bikes and Venatari. That's a very speedy list. Or this Dread Legion where it's tanky and thick and heavy and slow. Which would you rather see first? Throw a comment on there. I'm going to have someone in here soon to play, and I'll bring one of these lists. Whichever one you guys would rather see. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. This is my Dreadnaught and Terminator heavy list. I'm going to call it the Dread Legion. It's not the Dread Host. We're going to have to wait for the codex for that. It's more of a fun list. It's not probably the most viable, but it has some tools and stuff that I can probably make work in a battle report. I'm going to try to have either this list or the Need for Speed list that I have on the channel as well on the next battle report when I have someone on here. I do have a solo battle report coming out on probably the weekend of the Salamanders versus the Custodes with a more character-heavy kind of meta Custodes list. For this list, you'll have some bite, you'll be able to do some damage, but you're going to be slow. The Dreadnaughts are only movement 6, so they're really slow. You have protection against devastating wounds now, so they're not as broken bad as they used to be, but they're still very slow. I still think I can have a lot of fun with them. They're going to be quite tanky because you have all the toughness of the Terminators. There is some Custodian Guard in here, but it's Turbulence and Terminators. You have your Dreadnoughts and you have the Telemon, so it's a pretty tanky fellas, but you can't get caught out in the open or you're gonna lose units fast. And then for this list that I'm calling the Dread Legion, I'm gonna have a unit of 5 Terminators, another unit of 5 Terminators with a Terminator Captain. He's gonna have the Ceaseless Hunter enhancement, a unit of 4 Prosecutors, 5 Custodian Guard, one is going to have the Vexilla, Misericordia, and the Shield, 2 of the Galdas Dreadnoughts, and 2 of the Aculus Dreadnoughts. And with finally a Telemon Dreadnought with 2 of the Iliastus cannons just for a little bit of firepower. The AP is quite low, only AP 1, but it's some shooting. He'll help cover my backfield. And then I'm not sure if I'll put any of these in reserves or not. The unit of Terminators going to reserves, but the Dreadnoughts maybe 1, but they don't have deep strikes, so you can't rapid ingress them. Come on to the sides through reserves, so not the best. I still might use one just to try to get it up the table speedy, but if I get move blocked by them or zoned out, I'd probably start them all on the board. We'll see how it goes, who I play against with them, and see what lists they brought. We'll go from there. The reason I really don't want to bring them in just from reserves, from the board edge, is you got to rely on the 9-inch charge. They're not shooty Dreadnoughts, so you got to rely on the 9-inch charge. Even if you have the CP to reroll, I just don't like those odds. And if you get caught open with these, it's a lot of points just to get killed by doing nothing at all. This list, you're probably going to have to kind of stay around the objectives. You won't have a lot of units to push. Won't have a lot of extra units for secondary scoring. You're going to have to march your Terminators with your Dreadnoughts together, kind of get on these objectives, hold on to them. I might be able to be a little bit aggressive and push out with a heavy use of the sticky objective stratagem, but even then, I'm going to be careful when I move out. So if I march forward, I got to make sure I'm covering my angles, so if I fail a charge, or even if I make the charge and I clear out my target, I'm not just going to get shot off the board next turn by the opposing player. And like usual in my list videos, I'm going to go over each unit, just give you the pros and cons, and some of the thought process I have of taking each unit. The Dread Legion comes to 2,000 points exactly. I don't have the points of every unit. I think next time I will go over the points just to give you guys a little more idea of how much these things cost. Especially when you're trading, you want to know how much these things are costing. Knowing the points I think will be better for next time, but this time, no points, but this is a 2,000 point army exactly. Alright, so firstly we have the Prosecutors. They're always good to have in a list just for doing some action monkeys, having something to stand on your home field objective. They're not the strongest. They're movement 6, toughness 3, the 3-up save, so it's not bad. The shooting's not the best. They just have a bolt gun, close combat weapon. They have a few abilities. Most of them just revolve around psychic attacks, like a 3-up feel no pain against psychic, and they can do some precision and devastating wounds abilities against psychers. They're most of my action monkeys. Specifically for this list, they're going to be standing on my home field objective. Now we have the Custodian Guard, and ever since the balance update, the Custodian Guard have become a lot more viable. You have protection against devastating wounds. They're a lot more tanky now. They don't die as fast because they're the cheapest custodian unit we have. So I like always throwing a Custodian Guard in here if I have the room. And they're going to be my lead unit. I can't really put the Terminators out there to soak wounds or to be the first one on to the middle objective. I kind of want to have these guys sitting on objective and drawing the enemy in so they can take a counter charge from my Terminators. I don't want to do the opposite. I don't want to have the Terminators out there on objectives taking shots while these guys are waiting in the shadow. So their job is just to kind of sit on objectives and draw the enemy in for some counter charges. They do have the ability as they can re-roll their wounds if they control the objective they're standing on, and then once per battle they can shoot twice. I don't have any characters with this one. She is usually good to put them with Kyria Draxus or something else, but just alone I still think they'll be pretty good, a good nuisance unit, and like I said, they're going to be my lead unit just for standing on objectives, so not having a character in them, since they're kind of a throwaway unit, isn't that bad of a thing. And they're going to have the 4 spears with the one fella with the Vexilla. Now we have our first unit of 5 Terminators. So they're going to be the ones most likely I'm going to put in reserves, just because the Terminator Captain has a lot more utility with the free -1 damage, so I can afford to keep them on the board. So these are going to be just a rapid ingress target. Mostly I'm going to use these for rapid ingress since they do have deep strike. Keep them as a threat to keep the enemy honest. Give me another counter punch unit. If something's threatening one of my objectives I'm holding, I can rapid ingress in these guys in. I can deep strike these guys in on my turn if I have to. Do some shots. I don't really want to rely on the 9-inch charge, but the shooting that they have, especially against character units or monster units, you can really pop off them sometimes. And so this is my second unit of Terminators. They're going to go with the Terminator Captain. They go along with the theme of list of big, chunky units. These fellas are toughness 7, 4 wounds, 2 up saves, just the regular Terminator. So these are tough fellas. And then your shield captain has toughness 7, 2 up save, 4 up invuln, just like any other custodian has the 4 up invuln, and 7 wounds. So he is a chunky boy. And then these guys will be starting on the board. They have the captain, so he can use the -1 damage for free if he needs to. And starting them on the board, I'll have a golden light threat. So if I do go second, I can possibly golden light them up the board somewhere where they can be a nuisance or a threat or something that will give the opponent a choice and options of what they need to do. It's always good to give your opponent choices so they're not just always knowing exactly what they're going to do, kind of disrupt their game plan a little bit. And these Terminators, they can re-roll their wounds against characters, monsters, or vehicles. Guys are great for hunting down the important units of the opponent's army. So that's what I'm going to try to do, is kind of keep these guys safe, use the Custodian Guards and the Dreadnaughts to kind of lure the enemy in, and have these guys kind of waiting in the shadows, waiting behind cover for a good countercharge. And then the Terminators have the access to the ability of from Golden Light, and this allows you to, once per game at the end of the opponent's turn, if they're not in engagement, to take them off the board and then deep strike them in at the next turn. And that gets around because they're not going to reserves, you just take them off the board and they come back the next turn. So if you go second, you can Golden Light turn 1 and get these guys up the board real fast. So that's why I'm going to have these guys start on the board, just in case I do have that option to get them up the board real quick. But it does give you the option to do a little upsy downsy, move around your big death blobs. And the Terminator Captain, like I said, he has the ability to make a battle tactic for free, even if it's already been used that round. The other ability he has is not near as good because it's only for his model, it's not for the unit, it's just fight on death. On a 2-up, he gets to fight on death. It does give him a little bit of a threat. If you try to precision him out with melee, he's still going to smash your back, but still very situational. Alright, so now we have the big boys, the Dreadnaughts. So these are the Galatus Dreadnaughts. Toughness 9, 2-up save, 4-up invuln, 10 wounds, but only movement 6. And the movement 6 is what kind of kills them. They're decent at melee. They have 8 attacks, hit on 2s, strength 8, AP 2, damage 3. So they're good for melee. And then they have the range attack of the Warblade. And it's only D6, strength 6, AP 1, damage 1. It's a torrent twin-linked weapon. Not bad, but it's not nothing special. You're not going to take a whole bunch of these just for that shooting thing. But the weapon's not bad, the melee. They do have a built-in ability of -1 to wound. It's only in melee though, but you don't have to worry about strength being higher than your toughness. It's just subtract 1 to wound if you're in melee. So it's another big reason why the movement 6 kind of holds these guys back, because you do need to get into melee to make sure you get use of this ability. So if you get shot off the board while you're trying to make into melee, he doesn't do anything, his ability doesn't do anything, and there goes 100 and some points just for nothing, really. So these guys are going to be more support units. Try to maybe soak some of the shots onto these guys. They look big and scary, so hopefully the opponent might shoot at these instead of my Terminators. It does give me something to bring onto the objectives other than just one unit at a time. And they also have access to the martial katas, so you can -1 hit them, you can give them sustained hits or lethal wounds, so they can do the damage in melee, but it's just getting them there is the problem. I'm going to have a lot of fun with trying to figure out how to get these guys into melee. I think that'll be really fun, so I'm looking forward to that. I usually have a lot of infantry that just smashes through walls and stuff. These guys won't be able to smash through walls, and they're only movement 6, like I keep saying, so I have to be very careful with how I move these things and how I position them. 2 more Dreadnoughts. We get the Aculus Dreadnought, and this one is a little more higher damage potential. The shooting's a little better on it. They have a couple different weapons you can take. I think it's just different weapons on the arms, so you can have a Flamer, or a Bolter, or a Destructor. None of them are any good, really, for high damage potential for the shooting. Most of them are just, if the Flamer is just a D6 Flamer, the Bolter is a 2-shot Bolter, and the Destructor is just a 1-shot AP2, Strength 6, Damage 3 weapon. So the shooting is nothing to write home about. But the melee, it does have Lance, 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, Strength 12, AP2, D6 plus 1. Too bad it wasn't a little more AP. For his big old spear, it's only AP2. That's not the best, and I really don't like relying on D6. D6 is terrible. I'd rather just be a flat 4 damage or something like that. Maybe a few more attacks and just flat damage 3, because D6 plus 1, you could just be only doing 2 damage with this. You could be doing 3. It's just not as reliable as a flat damage number. With my Custodes, I like reliable. It is a dice rolling game, so I like to have a little bit of variability, so it's not just the same boring thing, but you have to know what you're going to kill and what you're not going to kill. And these guys kind of, I don't know if they're reliably killing units or not. We're going to find out when I play against some people with these lists, but I don't know. And then they have the ability, it's the Dread Foe. Nothing special. Once again, each time this model is selected fight, you can select one enemy within engagement range of it and roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result if this model is made a charge. 4 to a 5, the enemy unit suffers d3 mortals, and on a 6+, the enemy suffers 3 mortals. So it's few mortal wounds you have the potential of doing. And once again, just like the other Dreadnought, you need to make engagement. You need to make a charge. You need to be in melee for them to be doing anything. Movement 6 is just crippling for them. You can't smash through walls. You have to go around terrain. Like I said, I think I'm going to have a lot of fun getting these guys into combat too. So it's going to be trying to lure people into my charge range. But we'll see how that goes. I got quite good at that in the last 3 or 4 months. September hit, I lost my protection against devastating wounds, so I had to be quite crafty and hiding and knowing when to charge out. So hopefully those 4 months of being devastating wounded off the table by combi bolters and other such things gave me a couple lessons in just how to hide these units real good. Finally, the last of the big boys, we have the Telemon Heavy Dreadnought. I'm going to opt to use 2 guns. I do have the fist, but I do have a lot of melee in my list already, so having a gun platform sitting in the back beside my sisters, I think it'll be more positive than negative. But we'll find out. We'll find out. And this guy, you can take his Storm Cannon with devastating wounds. It's 12 attacks, Strength 6, AP 1, Damage 1. Sounds cool, but even if you hit every single time, mathematically, you're only going to get 2 devastating wounds. So yes, you could spike. I'm going to take 2 of the Iliastus accelerators, so they're going to have 4 attacks each. 48-inch range, so it helps them just be able to stand back and be a home field objective holder. 4 attacks each, hitting on 2s, Strength 9, AP 1, that's the kicker, Damage 3. To rely on my opponent failing some of these wound rolls, because they're going to be getting cover most of the time, so they're going to be getting their full saves. But if they do go through, the damage can pick off like Terminators or maybe some bikes or something. So there is some potential, but we're going to have to see how it goes, really. They do have the little bolt launcher in the back here, the top thing here, and it has D6 plus 3 shots, hitting on 2s, Strength 5, AP 0, Damage 1. So it's just a little bit of pew-pews you could do with it. They're melee weapons. I'm not going to have the Telemon Fist, so I'm just going to have 2 shooting guns. I'm only going to have the Armored Feet, so it's not going to be near as good in melee. Not going to be a melee powerhouse. He's going to stay behind and hopefully draw some shots and shoot into some targets. And he also has -1 to damage, which helps his profile because he is movement 8, so he does move a little bit faster than the other Dreadnoughts, but I think I'm going to use him for the backfield. He is toughness 10, 2 up save, 4 up invuln, 12 wounds, leadership 6, OC 4. And these Dreadnoughts, they're not big OC. Even the other Dreadnoughts are only OC 3, which is higher than other people's Dreadnoughts, but it's not like a big OC 5, OC 6 tank or something where I can reliably hold on to an objective. I'm going to have something else along with these Dreadnoughts to hold on to objectives. So this guy's just going to stay back, help the sisters, shoot some stuff, help screen a little bit, and we can hope that I can do the work with him, because this is an awesome looking Dreadnought. It's just his card isn't as awesome as he looks. And that is the list, really. It's Dreadnought heavy. It is Forge World heavy, but I think it'll be a fun list. It'll be something different. That way, when I'm playing my opponents, we don't have to worry about bringing the most meta things we have. We can have fun, and that way, a win or a loss, who cares if you lost a whole bunch of Dreadnoughts? It's if you had fun, and that's what I want this channel to bring. I want to bring it more fun than always being competitive all the time. Yes, we have the BMF belt for our competitive matches, but I want to have some more fun lists on here, bring in some more of these Custodes lists, just to show you guys you don't always have to bring infantry or the tanks to have a fun time, especially now where we have protection against devastating wounds again. Also using these units, they might get a rewrite, you never know with the codexes. Getting used to how these units work, their abilities, their movement, what they can do, what they could kill, what they can tank, it'll really help when the codex comes out. You'll have a more understanding of what they can do and maybe the tips, tricks, and tools you can use in the new codex. Maybe since you've used a bunch of these dreadnoughts, I've used a bunch of these dreadnoughts, I read something in the new codex, go, hey, that's going to be really good. Instead of reading through them and going, hey, that looks like it could be good, but I don't really know what any of these other units do, because I've always just been using Custodian Guard or Terminators or Blade Champions. So using other stuff like this, it gives you more knowledge to your army. You may not have these are Forge World units, but you can proxy, especially if you're playing with your friends. Proxy some units. They're not going to care. They're just there for fun. They're just there to play some Warhammer. Have some more fun with your armies. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by.